Hello and welcome to Connect Happy Valley's Connecting the Dots Sports with Chris Buchignani. Chris, go.
You nailed it. Great job. Well done, Greg.
Well, you have this Italian name, and I know I have some kind of mental dyslexia on names, and so I'm glad I nailed Buchignani.
Yeah, very good.
Go
you did
Booch.
very well. Well, I guess so. Big headline coming out of this past weekend was, if you're looking at what's going on in Penn State sports, and we don't want to talk about what happened to men's ice hockey because that was unfortunate end of the season, but Jackson Smith, one of the young stars of this team, questioned whether or not he would play another year of college. He is. He's coming back. And so I think there's already a very solid foundation looking ahead to next season. And even though it didn't go the way we wanted, I think largely because this team just was never able to keep its best players and its leaders healthy throughout the season. And in college hockey, when there's so much turnover from year to year and you're bringing guys in from all over, you need time for them to gel and learn to play together as a team. And it just never worked out. Injury bug bit us. And it's single game elimination. And, bad things can happen in that format. Nevertheless, it is always going to be true going forward that less than 1.5 decades ago, Terry Pegula made a transformative gift and created Penn State varsity ice hockey out of whole cloth. And it transformed the sport because it allowed for the creation of a Big Ten ice hockey conference. And Gavin McKenna, who is going to be the number 1 pick in the NHL draft, could have gone anywhere he wanted to play ice hockey, in or out of college. And he chose to play for Penn State. And that's just another brick in the wall that was a dream of Joe Battista once upon a time that Terry helped make reality. So I know folks are disappointed about that aspect, but I do think there are going to be some good things that come out of this. And on the flip side, men's lacrosse is rolling. They are rolling. We've been talking about this is going to be a young, exciting team that will get better as the season goes on. They're 2-0 in Big Ten play for the first time since 2019, and they just put it to number 8 Ohio State. They were ranked number 10, and they crushed them out in Columbus this weekend. So good stuff happening with men's lacrosse.
Nothing like beating Ohio State in any sport, any time. Now back to
satisfying.
Back to Gavin, the number 1 pick coming up. He left a quote after the game Friday that he'll forever be a Penn Stater.
I think that's true.
And I thought that was a powerful quote. And now with the women and the men, both in the Frozen Four.
Not both, but.
Well, both in the playoffs.
In the playoffs.
In the playoffs, yes. And sadly, both lost. However, could this year be defined as we're truly going to be Hockey Valley? Do we get over the...
Oh, I think we're over that. I think we're over that hump.
Well over that. Okay.
This is just validation that we're there.
Okay.
Because both of these campaigns, despite ending in losses as they all do except for one team, important fact to remember, they both help validate all the many different elements that have combined together to just make this, I think, an obvious and ideal home for ice hockey, Penn State. I thought this when I was an undergrad and I was watching the Icers, the club team, and talking on and off the air with the previously mentioned Joe Ba about how great it would be. We've got these 2 anchors of professional hockey fandom in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. So you've got built-in fan bases, people who know and understand and love the sport like you have in only a few different regions. You combine that with the enthusiasm of Penn State fans and the brand strength of Penn State, all you need are facilities that match those raw materials, and we've got them. And I think we've got great coaches in place. The fan support's terrific. Sky's the limit.
And Beaver Stadium, that game at Beaver Stadium drew,
75,000 people.
75,000
in
people.
single-digit temperatures.
And I was watching you on Happy Valley United. One of the athletes from Boston College said he attended that, and he was just blown away to see that kind of excitement in a hockey game. And he said he can't wait for this year's season.
Yeah, so perfect transition, Greg. Not a lot going on in home games this week with the Penn State Olympic sports. But I'll throw a couple of cheap plugs out there. If you're looking for something to do and you're a Penn State fan, on Thursday night, starting at 6 o'clock, doors open at 6, program starts at 7, I'll be out at Pine Grove Hall with HVU Insider, which is Happy Valley United, the NIL collectives, free to join recruiting information service. But they're putting a lot of good information out right now because we were really into the thick of Matt Campbell's first big recruiting cycle. These are open weekends that we're bringing a lot of recruits to campus, and HVU Insider's giving people a lot of insight into who's coming and who are the big names to know and what should you like about some of these potential future Nittany Lions. And so they are also running this program in conjunction with Pine Grove Hall to allow people to come out and hear some interviews with players, staffers, coaches, the future leaders of Penn State. And we did the first one last week. You were there. Omarion Davis is the young man you're discussing. He's a transfer from Boston College. It was really interesting to hear him talk about how when he decided to enter the portal, Bill O'Brien was instrumental in talking up Penn State and telling him how great it was to play football here and how it really is a one-of-a-kind experience with the fandom here. So I'm happy to hear Bill's still saying good stuff about Happy Valley. But that'll be this Thursday. Doors open at 6, and we're going to have 3 players. You get really interesting perspective from these guys, their journey to Penn State. Some of them are Iowa State transfers, so they can talk about who Matt Campbell is as a person. Some are guys who stuck through the transition, and they can give perspective on what the change has been like. But it's been a fun program to be a part of.
Well, and I was there Wednesday night, and I was blown away by these 3 players. One, the tight end from Iowa State.
Yep, Cooper Alexander.
And this gentleman from Boston College, and our kicker. And I really enjoyed just watching these guys talk about their favorite flavor at the creamery and the backstory of how they got here. And then the tight end talking about the tight end room, which is going to be amazing, and how they've all blended together. There was a lot of talk about this the emerging culture. So I highly recommend coming out. Second floor, Pine Grove Hall. And I love that building because in 1901, the Oddfellows built that.
Yeah.
And so we're here in the historic building. They still have the Oddfellows stained glass window up there on the second floor. And then here I'm watching you and Jim interview these 3 players. And I love the name Happy Valley United because ultimately uniting Happy Valley is Connect Happy Valley's goal. And so, and I just really, hearing these kids talking about morning practice and then going to class, it was great to know they go to class. It was great to know they're loving them.
They actually go to class.
They go to class, and they get up, they work out, they go to class. And so anyway, I highly recommend this Wednesday. And then
Thursday, but yes.
This Thursday, doors open at 6, but the event itself starts at 7.
Yes. And
it only runs an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And it's jam-packed with these interviews that you guys do with these players. And you really get, I thought I was listening to Shane Conlon up there. It brought me back to the 80s, the quality of these young men. And then hearing the success with honor, kind of the classes and the culture, it was just really moving to me. So that's this Thursday. And then Saturday, you're hosting another event.
I'm back. I am back at Pine Grove Hall on Saturday. This is just an infomercial for me today, apparently.
Well, people are asking me, who is this Chris guy? So who is this Chris guy? And you're going to hold what event Saturday night at Pine Grove Hall? I can't wait for that one, too.
Yeah, so I teach a class on Penn State football history for the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, for OLLI. Check them out, olli, olli.psu.edu.
An asset, a cultural asset to this community, as it is to watch young players on stage.
And so I've just been, over the course of kind of a multi-week period here, bringing that 3-session course, if you want to call it that. I mean, there's no coursework or anything. I'm just giving a presentation on the history of Penn State football. And so last month, I did the inception of the program from 1887 on to 1950. And on Saturday night at Pine Grove Hall, and you can sign up on their website, pinegrovehall.com, I'll be doing 1950 to 1993. So we'll cover Rip Engel, the transition to Joe Paterno, all those great undefeated seasons, the Cappelletti Heisman, the push to win a national championship, all the way up to the cusp of joining the Big Ten.
It ends in 1994.
Well, 93.
93. Oh,
94 will be at the end of the month.
Okay. And so, as we all know, that could be the best period so far of Penn State history.
Well, I mean, it's hard to dispute, right? When you look at that was really the time period in which the legend of Joe Paterno was made. By the time he got to his 3rd season, he's going back-to-back undefeated years with teams that are just stocked with College Football Hall of Fame talent, program legends, players who are going to go on to have tremendous success in the NFL, including Franco Harris and Jack Ham, who are going to do it for with the Pittsburgh Steelers here in Pennsylvania. And then You have the Cappelletti Heisman year. He gives one of the most memorable acceptance speeches of all time. Penn State's on the cover of Sports Illustrated going undefeated again in 1978 with a chance to win the national championship, and they don't do it, which is heartbreaking. But out of that heartbreak, and you think about what I said before about Gavin and the hockey team, we can now look back and say it set the stage for the triumph of finally getting over in 1982 and winning it all. And then Joe seizes on that moment, a national championship, to do, I think, one of the most remarkable things, not just in the history of this institution, but in all of college sports, maybe all of American higher education. Now, if you want to know more about that, you can come out to Pine Grove Hall on Saturday. And then, of course, 4 years later, he does it again in spectacular fashion.
Yes. And you were alluding to the trustee speech?
Yes. So if you want to find out, you can come to Pine Grove Hall, or Greg will just tell you right now. Either one.
I spilled the candy in the lobby, as I'm known to do. Okay. So that's this
It's
Saturday.
not the information, honestly. It's how the story is told. Anyway.
Got it.
So, yeah, we'll put it all together.
And I went to the first session, and I was fascinated again with Charlie Way. Just some of the names that you were speaking about that are like legend that you put the story to, and it just brings it to life. Anyway, so what else is
I
happening?
appreciate that. Thank you.
What else is happening coming up? We got the blue-white game. We got the men's lacrosse is going to have their senior event, and they're back playing home in a couple weeks.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Check our calendar for as these come up. But what else is happening like this weekend? You had mentioned.
So we got a 3-game homestand at Beardfield softball team. They're playing pretty well, and they've got a big series this weekend with Maryland. So I think the weather's finally starting to be a little bit more cooperative. It was interesting talking to some of these guys at Pine Grove, the football players who had just transferred in. And so their first impression of State College was this winter that we had. And I was like, guys, just hang in there. It's going to get better. I think we're to that point. And so you can go check out a softball game at Beardfield, which is a great facility. And then, go hike Mount Nittany.
There you go. And so Beardfield, I've never sat in the stands there, but you're looking out at Mount Nittany.
Oh, it's very nice.
And it's
Yeah,
an afternoon game, and they have concessions. You can just hang out. It's probably free to get in.
Yes.
It's just not a bad way to, and they play 9 innings, right? Or they play 6?
I think they play 7.
7.
Yeah,
So it's
I think.
you're in and out an hour and a half probably. And it's just a wonderful little venue.
Yeah.
You park, walk across the street. What a way to spend a Saturday afternoon
Not too shabby.
after you go to the cheese shop in the morning.
Yeah.
For a cup of coffee.
Get your cheese shop coffee, hike Mount Nittany.
Hey, so maybe off topic, Mount Nittany, I saw you on TV last week, and you are advocating that now that Rockview is closing,
Yeah.
that you informed me through that interview at WTAJ that whole mountain is owned by Rockview, which is owned by the state, up until the point where the Mount Nittany Conservancy has bought the land to preserve it.
Yes.
And so you're advocating and rallying awareness that you're hoping that mountain stays within the family.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. So I'm vice president of the Mount Nittany Conservancy, which people don't know is a nonprofit that owns and stewards the land on Mount Nittany to be preserved in its natural state and enjoyed by everybody. And the Conservancy is one of 12 conservation or community-minded groups that signed on to a letter to Josh Shapiro urging, number one, transparency in the process of what happens with the Rockview property, which is huge. It's 5,800 acres total, to include large portions of Mount Nittany on both sides, State College and Boalsburg, and then the valley all the way down, stretching over to Spring Creek Canyon and close to what people would think of as where they're kind of arriving in Bellefonte. And so we want that to be an open and transparent process that has a lot of public input. And the other thing that we need to keep in mind is that opportunities like the one that is being presented to us right now with this unspoiled, unused ground, which has been part of this huge prison parcel for decades, just don't come up very often. And once decisions are made about what is going to be done with this land, not just on Mount Nittany, but in the valley adjacent to it, that's it. That decision's made forever. And so we have an opportunity right now, which is not once in a lifetime, it's once in multiple lifetimes. It's a generational opportunity to care for and steward that land in a smart, responsible way that can be a legacy for those who follow us, and I believe can be a win-win for everyone who has a vested interest in what could be done with that land. I think there are ecological, recreational, agricultural, and commercial opportunities that can all live side by side. Now, getting there is going to be easier said than done because getting people to cooperate is difficult. But when you think about, you don't choose the time chooses you. And we here in this community have been chosen to be in charge of making this decision. We got to get it right because we have no other choice. Well, I don't want to be remembered as part of the group of community leaders here in Happy Valley who had a stake in this and either let it pass by or just fumbled the football when we had the opportunity. So yeah, it's very important to me. And obviously, as an officer of the Conservancy, I'm well aware of the fact that there's an established history here in this community and at Penn State that goes back over a century of the people of this community. And by that, I mean locals and Penn State alumni everywhere, banding together in support of the cause of preserving the mountain in its natural state as the most distinctive landmark and symbol of this place. And what people in their minds think of as Mount Nittany when they look at it from town or campus is encompassed by lands held by the Mount Nittany Conservancy and lands held by the Commonwealth, from the ridgeline all the way out to Pleasant Gap. The state needs to look very seriously at that history and understand that this is a treasured community resource that they have on their hands. And whatever action they take with that land, it should be consistent with preserving Mount Nittany in its untouched state. There are a lot of reasons why that's important.
Well, that's great. And love the passion about preserving that. And it just, what popped into my head is
you got to have it.
Yeah. Well,
why are you doing this stuff if you don't? To me, it's confusing to me. Why else would you get on board with something like this than to say, hey, we got a group of really competent, talented people who volunteer their time to be parts of all the organizations who are signatories on this letter. And they've laid out, I think, a very smart, measured vision for what could be done with this land. Again, in this generational opportunity, if you're not excited about where you are and that doesn't get you up out of bed in the morning, what are you even doing?
That's great. And when we talked about the great name Happy Valley United, which is a collective. Connect Happy Valley, our attempt is to put the signal out there and amplify such things as you're speaking about. How can Connect Happy Valley help amplify what you just so eloquently told us on how we can come together and have as stakeholders to ensure that that resource stays as it is?
I think you talked about that story on WTAJ, and we appreciate them and many other local media outlets covering this. All the information is out there. I think we've done a good job of presenting just kind of the overview of where we're at collectively as a group of organizations. Just get that out to your readers, because I think once you get exposed to the information, the benefits are self-evident, although we'll certainly be making a lot of efforts to drive that point home. But really, it's just a challenge of cutting through the noise and making people aware as they're going about their everyday lives that there is this opportunity in front of us, and the time to make a decision is not as far off as some might believe.
Well, it all comes down to the Commonwealth selling that land, including selling the prison. And so are you advocating and amplifying that we need to come together to buy that land as a community? And is that through nonprofit? Is that through fundraising? What wave the magic wand so we're sitting here a couple years from now saying, whew, that land is in the home of where? Mount Nittany Conservancy?
No, it's. I'm not going to give you the answer you want, but it's the correct answer, which is at this point, elements of what you just laid out are possible, but they're one of maybe a dozen different permutations. There are a lot of different ways to skin the cat, if you'll forgive the metaphor. So it would be premature for me to say, well, it could be done this way or that way.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that insight, and we will amplify that story as we are through this video. And anything else we need to know about upcoming, get off our screens, get out and enjoy this wonderful weather. It's spring in Happy Valley. Any other things on the radar that we should be looking towards?
You just said it, Greg. Put the device down for a little while, get outside, get some real vitamin D through sunlight, touch grass, as they say. And
IRL, tell our audience what IRL
yes,
means.
In real life.
Touch grass, IRL.
Touch grass, IRL. We are blessed to live in a great community that has a lot of amenities, a lot of entertainment options, but it also has unbelievable natural resources and outdoor recreation, almost literally a stone's throw away. And now is the time to get out and start appreciating it.
Amen. Thank you, Chris. This has been another edition of Connecting the Dots with Chris Buchignani. Thank you.